Police are searching for whomever is responsible for killing 2 people and injuring 28 others in a mass shooting in Baltimore, Maryland. It happened just after midnight yesterday during a block party. Police say the victims' ages range between 13 and 32 years old, with more than a dozen under the age of 18. Police say more than one person was involved in the shooting, but it is unclear if the victims were targeted. And now, joining us, the mayor of Baltimore, Maryland, Brandon Scott. Mayor Scott, thank you so much for being with us this morning. Let's just start right there. Could you give us any updates in terms of this investigation, whether a motive has been established or if any suspects have been detained?
No update on that other than what we already know and what you just reiterated. Listen, we're talking about a cowardly act of violence carried out by a few who did that in an event where folks were celebrating and took that away from them, took 2 lives and injured 28 others and harmed so many others through trauma in that community. That's what happened there, and we're not going to stop until we find those people and hold them accountable. But we're not just going to stop there. We're going to find out who trafficked that gun, who sold that gun, and even if that is the manufacturer, everybody in the chain has to be held accountable, starting with those who decided to pull the trigger cowardly and going back from there.
And Mr. Mayor, obviously more than 24 people injured, a number of them critically. Can you give us any updates there as to how they're doing? Is there hope there that they'll be able to recover?
Well, listen, that we know that at last check last night, all but 7 folks had been released from the hospital, and we still had those 4 in critical conditions. There have been no changes or updates from that as yesterday, and we will continue to update as we go throughout the day and throughout the recovery of the incident.
So, Mr. Mayor, this is a high-profile shooting attracting national attention, but certainly there has been crime has been a challenge for your city to this point this year. 140 homicides in Baltimore so far in 2023. I know you have denounced this as being entirely too high. Shootings around the same range this year as last, down a little bit. But tell us about some of the efforts you and the police department there are doing to try to get this rampant crime in check.
Well, what I would say that number you talk about, starting with the 140, even with this incident, right, we're talking about a city that has a 20% reduction in homicides year over year. So that work is still ongoing. One is one too many. I think that we have to understand that violence is an issue not just in Baltimore, but across this country, in our inner cities, and what plays in that, through the historic racism and all the things, the disinvestment, many things that we could talk about. But we also can understand that to reducing that is not just on the foot of the police any longer. Our police officers, as I said yesterday, have already seized over 1,300 illegal firearms, which we know most of them came from states not called Maryland, and definitely didn't come from Baltimore City where there are any gun stores, right? So we know that these things are coming in from Virginia, from West Virginia, from Georgia, from Texas, from Ohio, from everywhere but Baltimore, and we're going to be dealing with that flow of illegal guns into our city. We are focused in Baltimore on the people who are most likely to be the victim or perpetrator, which is why we started our group violence reduction strategy in our Western District, which is our most violent, and now we're expanding that throughout the city of Baltimore. But it doesn't just stop with our police. Through our mayor's office of neighborhood safety engagement, through our violence intervention workers, through Safe Streets who go out there, through our hospital-based response, through our community organizations, where we're pouring tons of money into community organizations like the Brothers That We Are Us, men who are going into their own community to fight against violence, while we're investing record numbers of funding into our public schools, into our recreation centers. All of that is how we've seen that reduction, and we want to build on that reduction because we've seen it across the country where cities are having the opposite, where they're up 10, 15, 20%. We're not happy with that 20% reduction. We want to see that go even further. We want to see that non-fatal shooting reduction go even further, and we're going to do everything to make sure that happens, from policing, through education, through social services, through making sure that people have opportunities and jobs, through programs like Hire Up and Train Up. But we cannot dance around this conversation any longer about how this country has always looked to police, always look to local elected officials, always look to local state's attorneys around dealing with gun violence. And we cannot get around the fact that this is another mass shooting, over 300 of them this year in the United States of America, and we are not talking about this issue nationally. Congress should be acting on these things nationally. Ghost guns should be banned nationally. There should be rules and regulations put in place that make it harder for people who do not and should not have a gun, not law-abiding gun holders who should not have a gun, making it harder for them to get it, for those who are trafficking them, people who are making guns and weapons and kits and things that they get offline. They should be doing that now, as they promised this country that they would way back in 1999 when I was in 9th grade when Columbine happened, and we're still having the same conversation today. Mayor after mayor after mayor after mayor. We at the local level can't do it alone. We're going to do everything in our power, but this issue is a nationwide epidemic, and we have to handle it that way as well.
Mayor Scott, Al Sharpton, yesterday 5 of the...
Good to see you, Reverend.
Good to see you. 5 of mayors from leading cities, L.A., New York, others were with us in a forum at the Essence Festival. And the frustration that they had there, and now I'm hearing from you, is that as they try to build and revive the economy of their city, deal with things like education, a lot of attention's on these shootings, and no one is dealing with the fact that there has been no move by Congress to really deal with issues, even as I would consider with dealing with background checks, which should be easy. Talk about how what you're trying to do in Baltimore, and my radio show's there every day, so I know the work you're doing. We're trying to help young people, trying to bring business back into Baltimore, is overshadowed by this kind of mass shooting, which you immediately called a mass shooting, and it interferes with your vision for Baltimore, and you're handicapped because you're not Congress. You can't do the laws that you need to do to be able to manage this kind of situation.
Yeah, thank you, Deborah. And I saw my brother and sister mayors, and I've heard from Mayor Adams and other folks throughout this, and we all have this conversation all the time about how we need that assistance. Like, for example, one of the biggest things that we talk about are these ghost guns, which we banned in Maryland, right? And which we are now seeing fewer of them recovered because of that ban. But we should be talking about Congress saying no one, Reverend, no one, especially some 13, 14-year-old kid, should be able to go online, order 3 little parts, put it together, and go out and be able to make it a gun. That is not something that should happen in our country. That's something they have in their power right now to do, but they're too afraid to do it as a mass. We have wonderful folks in Congress who are trying to do that, but that should be something that every single American should be putting on their heart. There are things that they can do, and it does overshadow. It overshadows the fact that we in Baltimore have invested now records level into our education system. We've opened 28 new school buildings over the last few years. We've now opened more recreation centers. We've invested tens of millions of dollars into small businesses, into small Black and women-owned businesses to allow them to come back from the pandemic. Cities are still coming back from that and bringing people back to work. We've solved historic issues, now making investments into areas that have been disinvested in on purpose in Baltimore, the city that birthed redlining, in those direct neighborhoods, and it's being overshadowed because everyone hears about that death, those things that happen, these mass shootings that happen, right? And we have to talk about that. But let's talk about that in the complexity and the completeness of the issue. Yes, we're going to have to hold whoever pulled that trigger responsible, but you and I know it's much deeper than that, because we know that there's mental health involved. We know that there's poverty involved. We know that there's structural racism involved. All of it matters, but we need this issue. Every mayor will tell you the same thing. We need national action on this to make it tougher for people to get these things who should not have them. I can't, right now, Reverend, if I let you hold my cell phone, you couldn't open it unless you had my face or my finger. But I can take your gun off you right now and shoot you with it. That makes no sense in this country. It's time for us to get real about how we're going to protect people's right to own a weapon, but also have the sanctity of the lives of Americans outweigh the sanctity of American guns, because right now that's imbalanced.
Baltimore, a wonderful city and a terrific leader running things there. Baltimore Mayor Brandon Scott, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.